Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today I want to go ahead and break down this new NBA schedule that we just got. There are a lot of important dates that I want to go over, talk about who opens the season, who plays when in some of these big-time matchups, who's playing on Christmas, what does this new NBA Rivals Week look like that we saw last year, what's the second edition of it going to be, and everything in between. I also want to talk a bit about the in-season tournament, how many nationally televised games that some teams got. We're going to cover a lot in this video, so I'm not going to waste too much time and get right into it. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, and if I don't talk about a matchup that you're excited for going into this upcoming season in this video, comment it down below and I'll let you know what I think. Everything begins on October 24th with the Lakers facing off against the Denver Nuggets in a Western Conference Finals rematch. This is also, of course, when the Denver Nuggets will be getting their championship rings, which is always one of my favorite parts of the season. I love seeing the previous champions get recognized in that way, and hopefully someday I'll get to see the Thunder have a ring ceremony like that. But for now, LeBron James, the Lakers, who lost to them in that Western Conference Finals, are going to have to watch the opposing team get those rings and then have to play them right after that. LeBron, Anthony Davis, Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. There's so much star talent in this matchup, and these are two of the best teams in the West in my opinion. Really excited. I think this is going to be a great game to kick things off, and it's followed up by another really exciting matchup. We've got Phoenix versus Golden State, again, two of the best teams in the Western Conference, but there's way more than that involved as well. This will be our first look at the new look Suns team now with Bradley Beal. It'll be Kevin Durant versus his former team in the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry. It'll be Chris Paul now in the Golden State Warriors facing off against the Suns in the first game of the season, the first time since he was traded over to the Warriors. There's a lot going into this one. This one is also one that I'm really excited for. Might even be more excited for this one than the other game, but regardless, both are probably going to be really good, and I'm happy they put these two matchups in particular on opening night. The next day, we've got Knicks versus Celtics. Kristaps Porzingis' debut as a Boston Celtic, and he's facing off against the Knicks, who he used to play for in Madison Square Garden. We'll see if the Knicks and Jalen Brunson in particular can carry over some of the magic they showed last year, which took them to the second round of the playoffs. On Wednesday, we've got the Mavericks versus the San Antonio Spurs. This will be Victor Wembanyama's NBA regular season debut, and it's going to begin against Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, who are trying to vault themselves towards the top of the Western Conference themselves. October 26th, we've got Sixers versus Bucks, a battle between Embiid and Giannis, two of the best players in the entire league, and the two best players in the Eastern Conference. Every time the Sixers and Bucks have played over their last few matchups, the game has been really good. There have been some big-time moments, so I'm really excited for this one. We'll see if James Harden is still in town. We've got Suns versus Lakers, Kevin Durant versus LeBron James, possibly for the first time since I think it's 2018 or 2019. We haven't seen these two generational era-defining superstars battled out in a really long time, so hopefully they're both healthy for this one and good to go. And again, these two teams are some of the best in the West, so just from a team perspective, it should be a really good game. On Friday, October 27th, we've got Celtics versus Heat, a rematch of the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll see if Damian Lillard is there for the Heat, but even if not, should still be a fun one. We've got a rematch of my favorite first-round matchup from last year between the Kings and the Warriors. This is going to be a high-powered offensive game as the Kings try to maintain their spot as one of the best in the West, while Steph Curry and the Dubs try to prove that their first-round series win wasn't a fluke. On Saturday, we've got Knicks versus Pelicans. Hopefully Zion Williamson is good to go for that one. Should be a good time. And then Jazz versus Suns. The Suns are going to get a lot of nationally televised games. I can tell you that now for this upcoming season. And seeing Larry Markkinen and the crew go up against Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, DeAndre Ayton should be fun. So those are the games that are going to open the NBA season on national TV. I think they did a good job of putting together that schedule. And right after that, we go straight into the in-season tournament. If you didn't know, here are the key dates for the tournament. November 3rd, group play begins. November 28th is the end of group play. We play the quarterfinals December 4th through December 5th for the three teams that win in their groups in each conference, as well as one wild card team. December 7th, we have the semifinals, and December 9th, we have the championship, which will be an 83rd game played between the two teams that make it out of each conference. Here are the aforementioned teams for each of the in-season tournament groups. The way that this works is, say you're a Grizzlies fan, the Grizzlies will go up against the Phoenix Suns, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Utah Jazz, and the Portland Trail Blazers, the four other teams in their group. They'll play them each once. Two of the games will be at home, two will be away in that period that we talked about. And over that time, whichever team emerges from each group with the best record will advance to a single elimination tournament, as well as one wildcard team from each conference, which is the squad that has the best record amongst that conference, but didn't end up winning their group. So 8 teams go onto a single elimination bracket. They'll just play against each other, be seeded, I'm guessing, by their record, and eventually we'll get down to the semifinals, and those games, as well as the finals, will all be played in Las Vegas, with the finals happening, like I mentioned before, on December 9th, and that will be an 83rd game technically in the regular season for whatever two teams advance to that point. I'm personally pretty excited for the in-season tournament. I don't know if it's actually going to mean that much to the players, but I appreciate that they're trying something to make the regular season feel a bit more eventful, make it feel like it matters more, and especially towards the beginning of the season when we've got some hype, but those games don't feel like they matter too much because we really don't know what seeding is going to look like. I appreciate that they're trying something, and I'm cautiously optimistic that it's going to be a success in its first season. I mean, we saw the play-in tournament right from the get-go be incredible, so I'm hoping that we see a similar thing here. And then following the in-season tournament, the next thing up on the schedule are the Christmas Day games. All-day hoops begin with Bucks versus Knicks, a matchup that I think is going to be pretty good. The Knicks always get a Christmas Day game, but at least this time, they're a good team. Jalen Brunson has been electric in any big-time matchups that he's been put in. Giannis also pretty much always rises to the occasion. I think the Bucks are again going to be a championship contender, so this is a good way to go ahead and kick off the slate. At 2:30, we've got another good game with Nuggets versus Warriors, a battle of the two past Western Conference champions. The Nuggets, of course, continuing their bid for a repeat, while the Warriors are trying to climb back and get to that mountaintop, and we'll get an idea of how Chris Paul looks in one of these big-time matchups with this new Dub squad. Following that, we've got Celtics versus Lakers, one of the NBA's longest-running rivalries. The rivalry doesn't exist too much at this point, but maybe a game like this and the fact that both of them are now championship contenders could end up rekindling that rivalry just a little bit. You know, maybe this could be a finals matchup. We see it on the line. I don't think that's unrealistic. Jason Tatum versus LeBron James, also a rehashing of that hilarious Lakers-Celtics game where LeBron lost his mind after the no foul call. You had Patrick Beverley showing the referee the camera. One of my favorite games of the entirety of last season. I'm excited to see what happens on an even bigger stage here on Christmas. Following that up, we've got Sixers versus Heat, which could be a good game, but if James Harden is gone and Dame is there for the Heat, Miami probably is the front runner to win this one, but even still, we'll see Joel Embiid battle up against Miami. Him versus Bam Adebayo is a really fun individual matchup. Jimmy Butler, of course, going up against his former team in the Philadelphia 76ers. This is one of the ones that's a bit lower on my totem pole, depending on, trades, of course. If Harden's still here, if the Sixers make some kind of big time deal, if Dame is over there in Miami, this one shoots up the ladder, but for right now, it's a little bit down there. And finally, we've got Mavericks versus Suns, another game that I am really excited for. Luka against Devin Booker, who have a bit of history with each other, battling in the playoffs and just getting up in each other's faces really every time they play. Kyrie versus Kevin Durant is a fun matchup too. We'll again get to see how Bradley Beal continues to look in these big time matchups. And if the Mavericks are towards the top of the West, alongside the Suns, who I think will be one of the better teams in that conference, this could be a game that's really important for playoff seeding down the line and maybe a playoff preview. So overall for Christmas Day, I think they did a pretty good job. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised they didn't put like Victor Wembanyama on there in the Spurs, but I will say that they gave them a lot of other nationally televised games, and a few of those come in this new NBA Rivals Week. This is something they did last season where they put together teams that have a bit of a rivalry, whether that's between two players or like a historic team one. It's interesting. Some of these are weird. Like, I don't think of Sixers Spurs as a rivalry whatsoever. I guess it's because Victor Wembanyama is coming up as like one of the next great bigs against Joel Embiid, who's the reigning MVP. I guess that's probably the rivalry there. But I wouldn't say that's necessarily a rivalry anyways. It's just something that they're trying. I do think Sixers Spurs is a fun game, again, seeing Vic go up against one of the league's best bigs. Hawks versus Kings. I really don't know why this one is a rivalry game. I'm like trying to rack my brain for why this is the case. I can't think of it, but Trae Young versus De'Aaron Fox should be a good time. Knicks versus Nets, I guess it's just a Battle of New York thing. We've got Lakers versus Clippers, Battle of LA thing. So they're doing the two geographic battles on that day, I guess. Lakers Clippers could be really good if the Clippers and Lakers are both healthy, which is incredibly rare with those two teams. We've got Thunder versus Spurs, which is a battle of Chet versus Vic, which I do think could be a bit more of a rivalry going forward with two of the league's next great bigs. We've got Suns versus Mavericks. We talked about them on Christmas. They certainly have a bit of a rivalry there. Same thing with Celtics Heat, which has been a battle in the past two Eastern Conference Finals, so I get that one. Sacramento versus Warriors, again, a battle of their round one rematch, which was really, really fun. Mavericks versus Hawks, this one is the Trae Young Luka Doncic matchup. It's not really that much of a rivalry, but I do think it's fun to see these two teams play. Blazers versus Spurs, we get Vic versus Scoot Henderson, two of the best players maybe in this past year's draft. That should be a good time. I'll definitely be tuning into that one. We've got Heat versus Knicks, which is a rematch of the second round matchup from this past year. Again, I wouldn't really say it's a rivalry, but could be a good game. Now, we do have a rivalry here in Sixers versus Nuggets, Embiid versus Jokic, the past two MVPs. The last time they played, it was amazing, and Joel Embiid got the better of Jokic, but then when they were supposed to play in Denver, Embiid wasn't there. Some people say that he ducked him. I don't think that's the case, but we'll see what happens on January 27th if they actually get the chance to battle it out. And finally, it wraps with LeBron James and the Lakers taking on Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. So that wraps up our section talking about some of the biggest matchups and notable games over the course of the NBA season. Now let's quickly go through every single team and how many national televised games that they have. Brett here was kind enough to put together this list of every single team and the games that they have. It's in alphabetical order, and this includes ESPN, TNT, ABC, and NBA TV. Again, some people don't consider NBA TV games actually being nationally televised, but for the sake of this segment, we're going to go ahead and say that they count. At the top here, like I said, we have Atlanta who get 15. I think that's a decent number. They've got Trae Young, of course. They were kind of disappointing last year, so I could see some end up getting flex for them if they have a better year than people are expecting. Boston is towards the top of the league in games with 35. Makes sense. Kristaps being in the fold. Having Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, their championship contender. Brooklyn gets 11. We'll see if Mikal Bridges can have enough of a breakout to boost that number up. Charlotte ties for the least in the league with Detroit, Washington, and Houston with just 4. Those are all young teams that I think could end up getting more games if they defy expectations, if one of their young star players breaks out and becomes, say, an all-star or is suddenly like an all-NBA caliber guy. I think each of those teams could get more as the season goes on. Chicago only gets 7. NBA not very high on them despite them being a bigger market. Cleveland gets 17 after their great season last year. Dallas gets 28. Luka Doncic effect. He's always going to be towards the top of the conversation for nationally televised games. Plus, they've got Kyrie, which makes things interesting. Reigning champion Denver Nuggets get 30. The Golden State Warriors lead the NBA with 41. No surprise there. When you've got Steph Curry on your team, you're going to get a ton of games. We talked about Houston having 4. Indiana get 6. Another young team that I think could get more games as the season goes on. LA Clippers get 22. We'll see what happens with health there. I could see some games being moved on or off because guys are or aren't in the lineup. The Lakers get right behind the Warriors in second place with 40 games. Again, similar to the Steph Curry effect, you have the LeBron James one plus the Lakers just being a brand. The Grizzlies get 19. I'm guessing most of those are probably in the second half of the season when Ja Morant comes back. You've got the Miami Heat getting 24, which is kind of surprising. I feel like the NBA doesn't typically give them a lot of love in this part of the schedule, but they're probably banking on Damian Lillard being there, and if he is there, I could see this number shoot even higher. The Bucks get 30 games. They have Giannis, and again, will probably be a championship contender. Minnesota grabs 10. The Pelicans grab 12. Going down a little bit, NBA probably isn't sure if we're going to see like their stars play that much. The Knicks get 25. Bigger brand. OKC, my favorite team, grabs 13, which I'm super excited about. I think we deserve this much and could get even more if we exceed expectations like I think we will. Orlando gets just 5, which I'm kind of surprised about with Paolo Banchero over there, but again, could end up getting some more. Philly picks up 29. The Phoenix Suns, the new look Suns, get 37. Portland gets 6. Scoot Henderson and Victor Wembanyama, I know at least, playing on national TV against each other in that Rivals week. Sacramento gets 22. Glad the Kings are getting some love. Toronto grabs just 3. I didn't even realize that they got the least number in the league. I missed them on this list when I just scanned it when I started this segment, so ignore what I said earlier. The Raptors are alone at the bottom of the list according to this tweet, which is shocking. I guess they're probably not going to be that great this season, but I thought they'd get a bit more, being Canada's team, having Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam. I guess we'll see. The Jazz get 9, and the Wizards, like I mentioned earlier, end up with 4. So that's my quick breakdown of this year's schedule. I hope it was helpful in giving you a bit of information about what things are going to look like. I know the schedule release can be incredibly hectic because there's 30 teams to think about and so many different important moments in the NBA season, but I was trying to get this video to be a bit more of a concise spot for you to get a lot of that info. So if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe, helps the channel out a lot. Also comment down below what matchups you're most excited for, and let me know what you think about the number of nationally televised games that your team got. I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.